All right. Anyway, so
Hey.
we.
When your wife asks you skirt or dress, always say dress because if she wears a skirt, it's always gonna come with the top, and then you're gonna be there for hours.
Yeah. So anyway, so the Haftarah we learned this week is Ania Sa'ara Lo Nוחמה. So again, it's a continuation. You know, we have Shabbos Nachamu, and then we have the Haftarah of that, which is Parshas Vaschanan. Then we have the Haftarah of Ekev, which was last week's Haftarah, and now we have this week's Haftarah of Ania Sa'ara Lo Nוחמה. Hine Anochim Marbetz Bapuch Avonayich V'Sadatich Basapirim. You know, Ania Sa'ara Lo Nוחama means that Ania is referring to Knesset Yisrael, referring to Tziyam Yerushalayim, which are used interchangeably because, you know, if you're a people, then you have a place. The Golus makes it that we may still be a people, but we no longer have our place. So Ania, there's a lashon of the pasuk in Eicha that says, Zachar Yerushalayim imei Anya umrudeha. Yerushalayim remembers the days of its pain and the days that it was trampled on. Kol machmadeha machamudeha asher hayu mimekedem b'nfoil ama b'yatzor v'na'izlo ruah tzom sacha kol mishpateha. So that's a pasuk in Eicha that we refer to Yerushalayim as Ania. Ania can mean poor, but I think the correct, in the context of what Ania that we're talking about now, doesn't mean poor, but it means a lashon of tsar, right? A lashon of pain.
The sticks are metal? No,
we're so the lashon of Ania over here is a lashon of pain. It's Ania Sayara. Sayara is a lashon of sar. Sar means like a storm, a stormy wind. So when a person is grieving, when a person loses a loved one, they're very, very overwhelmed with emotion, overcome with emotion. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. Is there anything that they could do? And they have all these questions. So that's Ania Sa'ara Lo Nוחama. Because they're still, their mind and their emotions are still storming, they don't know where to turn. So they can't have a Nechama. Nechama is, the first step of Nechama is to recognize, but there's different stages of what goes on with when a person's grieving, when a person's going through a tzara. Rashi says, Soyara, Shaliba Soyar Berubei Tzaras, that their heart, the heart of Klal Yisrael, the heart of Tziyam Yerushalayim, is still storming from the amount of tzaras and the quality and the quantity of the tzaras that happen. So Hashem says, Hine Anochim Marbetz Bapuch Avonayich V'Sadatich Basapirim. There's difficult words to touch over here, but Marbetz Bapuch Avonayich, Rashi explains that they will line the floor with precious stones and diamonds. And then the pasuk continues with Samti Kadkachim Sheisayich, on and on. Very interesting words if you pay attention. Some of the psukim you'll be familiar with, which maybe we'll get to in a little bit. But what's the nechama over here that the pasuk is starting off? Ania Sa'ara Lo Nוחama. That we're still storming with emotion from the tzaras that we're not yet ready for a nechama. Even though we started off this whole seder of haftaras from Yeshaya, we started off with the seder of it with Nachmu Ami. That Hashem is telling the Navi that to go Mimenachem Klal Yisrael, and we said that the reason why you have a double lashon of Nechama, we said from the Shem Yishmuel, is just like it says by Moshe when he came to the Yidden in Mitzrayim, they didn't have the proper kalim to listen. When the Gemara says that you should not try to be mefayis a person b'shas kasa. While a person's angry, you shouldn't try to get him to calm down. Maybe try to get him out of the way of people getting hurt by him or things getting destroyed by him. But the main thing is that b'shas he's angry, don't try to calm him down. It's not going to work. It's practical. It's just not going to work.
So when
a person what?
So when he's supposed to try and calm him down.
When he's ready to calm down. When he's ready to calm down. And many times the person comes around on their own eventually. And we try to push it a lot of times, but generally doesn't work out so well. It's much better if we wait it out, so to speak. We wait for the person to calm down. So a big part of Avelus is the anger aspect of it, that we're very upset. Why did this happen? What did we do? What's this all about? So that's what the pasuk is saying over here. Ania Sa'ara Nוחמה. The Radak says Sa'ara B'saras Hagolus. Don't do that. We're still storming with the effects of the Golus, Nוחama. Until this point, they were running around without the ability to have a Nechama. And now that we're having a Nechama, let's try not to knock things down. Okay. Now that we're having meaning at this point, the Psukim are going to tell us what a Nechama looks like and what we should look forward to of the Nechama of the Geula Asida. So we mentioned the Rambam says yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, that many of the ideas that are mentioned in the Navi are mashal and echida. It's not to be taken literally, to be understood literally. And I think very much that this Aptara brings out that point of something that shouldn't be taken literally. Because why is it a nechama to say that we're going to put down all these precious stones on the floor? So what that these precious stones on the floor, right? So Elamai, we're talking about that. That's not what it means. We shouldn't be taking it literally, right? So obviously, if somebody loses their house in a fire, Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, "Be'eshi tzata be'eshan yasid levnaisa." Hakadosh Baruch Hu burnt down the Beis Hamikdash. Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to return the Beis Hamikdash with fire, right? But Hakadosh Baruch Hu's house is missing. Hakadosh Baruch Hu's house is not here. So maybe the Psukim are referring to the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, but it doesn't sound like that in the Psukim. So let's see the Psukim again. Ania Sa'ara Nוחמה, the still being Zoyer B'saras Hagolus Chashichasa Mekabla Ulban Karta. The Chashichasa sounds like a lashon of Chayshach. And the person's grieving in an unconsolable way. And there's nobody that could console them. So the Navi says, I'm going to put down special stones on the floor. And, meaning, but before you put the stones on the floor, you have to smooth it out. So that's what the pasuk's talking about. And I will put sapphire stone over there in the Asaydus of the floor. How is this? What does this got to do with the Nechama? So that's a very good question. And the psukim that continue, v'samti kadkoid shim sheisayach, I'll put these diamonds, kadkoid are diamonds or pearls.
Kadkoid, I'm pretty sure are pearls.
What?
Kadkoid, I'm pretty sure are pearls.
Who?
Kadkoid, I'm pretty sure are pearls.
Yeah. Kadkoid shim sheisayach. What is shim sheisayach? So shim sheisayach means in the windows, in the place where you normally get light from the sun. Shemesh chaloinoi, shechama zirachas behen. Vayisi connect the mechitza b'minei zchuchis tzivav l'noi. Or it means the old. If you look at the pictures of the depictions of the walled cities from the times of Yerushalayim, the walls had like teeth on top. So that's that maybe what it, what? Right. So it's not it's not windows. It's that, but there's different pshatim over here. The Radak says that Shim Sheisach are the chaloinos, shetikonis b'em hashemesh. Evshe kipinais hachaloinos yiyu even kadked. Evshe avar hachaloinos yibana b'kadked. K'may sheisanois b'schuchis tzvua. You put different beautiful colors in the windows to get certain lights, to get certain geshmaka colors, to get certain geshmaka lights. Again, we have to understand. The question is, how is this the nechama? What's the nechama over here? It's very nice that you're putting down stones, but what's the idea? What's the mashal over here of nechama? And then the pasuk continues, it's a pasuk we're familiar with. So what's going on over here? So we said before that we have to talk directly to the person who's grieving. We have to talk directly to Tziyam Yerushalayim that's grieving on the Churban. And we mentioned the Medrash last week from the Levush brought, from the Budraham, that the Klal Yisrael is not zufrieden with the level of Nechama that you're getting from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in addition to the Nechama, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to be Mefayis Klal Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to tell Klal Yisrael, listen, this is what I'm doing to be Menachem you, and you guys got to accept it. right? But we learn.
Sorry.
We learn in Parshas Re'eh. We learn all about the Klal Yisrael going to the Beis Hamikdash. We mentioned this more than once. The lesson of the Rambam at the beginning of Hilchos Beis HaBechira that the concept of the Beis Hamikdash is lahakrav b'karbanos v'lacha geileh shalosh pam b'ashana. The mitzvah of aliyah l'regel is totally in the Beis Hamikdash. The point of the Beis Hamikdash is for aliyah l'regel. And the pasuk in this week's parsha says, "Ki imel hamakam asher yivchar Hashem l'keichem mikol shavteichem losam asher ma'isham l'shichnei sidushu bas Hashama v'hoya hamakam asher yivchar Hashem l'keichem ba'il shakin shma'isham shama tavius kol asher nechem tzav eschem." And on about the Makom HaMikdash and the Beis HaMikdash and the Haftarah of Re'eh. After we learned such a parsha and after we learned last week that Hashem forgot about us in the parsha that discusses the Beis HaMikdash, and we know where we're going to the Beis HaMikdash. It's very fascinating. The Torah doesn't tell us where the Beis HaMikdash is. If you go through the whole Chumash, you won't know where Klal Yisrael should make the Beis Hamikdash when they come to Eretz Yisrael. Why is that? Hamakom asher yivchar, hamakom asher yivchar, hamakom asher yivchar. So let's take this back for a second to Avram Avinu. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avram Avinu, Lech lecha me'artzecha me'latzecha me'beis avicha la'aretz asher areka. Did he know that he was supposed to go to Eretz Yisrael? Or he just went and just ended up there and ended up making ma'isa over there? So the Mefarshim say different things. I think Kipshuta when we're younger, we learn very much that along the lines that he just went and ended up there. Obviously, it's silly to learn that way because the Ramban and others understand that Avraham Avinu understood inherently that there was a kedusha in Eretz Yisrael and in the. Ouch! Just got to burn. Okay. That there was a kedusha in the Eretz Yisrael and a kedusha in the Makom HaMikdash. As we know, the Rambam in the Perek Beis of Hilchos Beis HaBechira tells us the Perek Beis Halacha Beis Hamakom HaMizbeach Mechuvan B'Yoser, the place of the Mizbeach is very, very specific, and we know that because Adam Rishon brought karbanos there, Noach was makriv karbanos there, Avram Avinu brought Yitzchak for the Aked over there. That is the Makom of the Beis Hamikdash. So the Makom Asher Yivchar, even though the Torah doesn't tell us exactly where it is, because many times if we tell you, I want to surprise you, I want to tell you something that you're not going to be prepared for, it makes the anticipation and the yearning for it so much greater. We don't, if we would know when Mashiach is coming, right? We would know, let's say Mashiach is coming next year on Tu B'Shvat, right? Okay, so we'll sit around and we'll hawk around and then, okay, Tu B'Shvat, okay, he's coming, Seder, right? It's not that it's not exciting, but there's the build-up and the anticipation of the unknown creates so much more of a cheshek, and creates so much more of a wanting and a yearning, as we spoke the other day about being mitzapeh Yeshua, and that's a big part of it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to have a tremendous ratzon and a tremendous yearning for the Beis Hamikdash. So in the Psukim in Chumash, it tells us everything we need to know about the Beis Hamikdash besides for where to put it. And the Gemara Zvachim tells us the story about what happened when David HaMelech decided that it's time to build the Beis Hamikdash, and he went together with Shmuel Hanavi, and they sat with the map, and they were mapping out the Har HaBayis and where they're going to go and how they're going to do it. And then they found this person named Aravna or Arnain, and he had a barn until they tried to make a sale with him. They tried to handle with him to get to buy his barn to make it into the Beis Hamikdash. And think about the life of David HaMelech, that his goal in life was to build the Beis Hamikdash. David HaMelech's mission in life was to build the Beis Hamikdash. Everyone's looking at me like you fell off the moon, because David HaMelech did not build the Beis Hamikdash. That's exactly the point. The same way, the Torah, the whole Torah tells us that we're going to come into Eretz Yisrael and a Makom Asher Yivchar, and the place that was the Mashbi'ah, Maftiach to the office that they're going to get Eretz Yisrael. Alamaisa, at the end, you finished off the Chumash, Leine Kol Yisrael, we learned in some Torah. There's still no Eretz Yisrael. We still didn't get there.
I realized I didn't bench. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
You do that. So the entering into Eretz Yisrael comes al yidei Yeshua Davka, not al yidei Moshe. David HaMelech doesn't finish the job of building the Beis Hamikdash. He doesn't. In a sense, he started it, but he didn't see it. He didn't see it. There's a certain yearning that he had. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted from him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted his ratzon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted from him. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted from him was to want to have the Beis HaMikdash, even if he'll never see it. And a big part of being in the Golus is to want to have a Beis HaMikdash and to want to have a Shechina and to want to have a Geula. Whether we see it or not, it's almost irrelevant. The point is, and obviously it's not totally irrelevant. We're hopefully we're going to see it, but there's a tremendous avodah that's put on the tzipiyah, on the looking forward to it, right? As they say in Nusach Svarad and Shemoneh Esrei, at least some say it in the bracha of Tzemach David Abdecha Meheres Atzmiach, right? Umetzapim liyeshua, right? And because it used to be, welcome back, Shalom. How are you? You still alive? You made it back? One piece? How many pieces? 3. Wow. So we say the bracha in Shemoneh Esrei Tzemach David Abdecha Meheres Atzmiach, right? The Karnoi Tarim B'Shuasecha, and it will lift up the spirits of David Avdecha, which means Malchus Beis David, with the Yeshua that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring us. Ki Lishuascha Kivinu Kol Hayom, because we're looking forward to your Yeshua the entire day. Kol Hayom, every day. Right? And in the old Sidurim, it said on the side, like you should pause for a minute and be mitzapeh for the Yeshua. Right? And then it got incorporated into the Siddur. That's why people say it. It wasn't meant to be said. It was meant to just pause and think about the Yeshua. But okay, I guess if you don't think it, you'll say it. I don't know if it's better, but I'll call upon him. That's what they say. Anyway, so when we're learning such a parsha of wanting the Beis HaMikdash, and we're learning such a parsha of figuring out where to make the Beis HaMikdash, it only passes to learn the Haftarah of the Nוחama because last week we learned the Tamer Tzion as of Canneh Hashem, and over there the pasuk says the Divrei Nichumim of Tzion Yerushalayim that we ended off the Haftarah last week. Nicham Hashem Tzion, Hashem will be menachem Tzion, Nicham Kol Charveiseha, and will be menachem all the ruins and the destructions of Yerushalayim. Now in the Haftarah of Parshas Re'eh it says, it's still Roy Nוחama. We're still in a state where the Nוחama is not complete. And it's possible that the Pshat is like this, that there were many Haftachas, many promises from the Nevi'im and from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Yerushalayim and the Beis HaMikdash is going to go back to its original state of glory and beauty. Because we said, Nicham Kol Charveiseha, that all the destroyed parts of Yerushalayim will be restored and be rebuilt, and we'll be able to live again like Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, like we did in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. But we still want a greater Nechama. When we want, if you have something, a kid wants ice cream, right? He wants it so desperately. He mamish wants ice cream, and there's nothing that's going to stop him from wanting the ice cream. His wanting ice cream many times is a lot more, and it's a lot bigger than the amount of ice cream that he's going to get. His mother's going to give him 1 spoon of ice cream, it's not going to suffice. So Canneh Sa'ara, v'im kol zeh, loy Nוחama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, v'taymer tzion as of Canneh Hashem, and we ended off, ki nicham Hashem tzion. Hashem will give us a Nechama. So what could be better than that? But we learn again this week, loy Nוחama, we don't have a Nechama yet. Why? Why don't we have a Nechama yet? Meaning, like we spoke before Tisha B'Av in the beginning of the 9 days, in order to appreciate what we lost, we have to appreciate what we had. If we don't appreciate what we had, it's very hard to appreciate what was lost. But we want a greater Nechama. With these Haftachas, we want a Haftacha, and we want a promise, and we want a Nechama, and we want a Piyus that's really, really, really going to make me feel like I felt in those days. That we should understand the Tsar of the Churban and the Galus, and we should be able to be fully prepared to take on the Gula, the Gula Asida. Without the Tsar of the Galus and without the Churban of everything that we've been through as a Klal Yisrael, we're not going to be able to be makabel these Toivos. And in these psukim that we're going to learn this Shabbos, we'll be able to see and we'll be able to recognize the proper kalim of what we're going to be getting in as the Nechama. And I want to just mention a few points. I'll just mention a few midrashim. The Medrash says, Ania Sera le Nוחמה, Ania min tzadikim. It's, Ania is a lashon of poor. When a person is poor, he always thinks that everybody else has more than him. The Gemara says, Ein ani ela b'das. Poor is a mindset. A person could not have money, but he could still be happy. He could still be, it's more difficult. Life is more difficult if you don't have the means to support yourself, right? But sometimes a person has all the money, but he's lacking. The churban and lacking go together. Meaning churban means that we're lacking something. So Ania Sera le Nוחמה, the Psikta says, the Medrash says, Ania min tzadikim. We don't have the tzadikim that we used to have. Ania min Torah. We don't have the level of Torah that we used to have. The Torah of Galus is very different than the Torah of Geula. Ania mi mitzvos u'mimasim tovim. And the level of Shemiras HaMitzvos that we have now is very different than the way that we had Shemiras HaMitzvos in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. So'ara ma'ararasa uma she'arureha uma she'iraruha uma sa'olam. Why are we Ania So'ara lo Nוחמה? So it is a concept of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. But the turmoil that Klal Yisrael goes through as a nation, going through the Gullus, being chased from one country to another, crusades, whether it's crusades or Cossacks or Nazis or whatever they are that are destroying Klal Yisrael, there's no peace. There's no peace. They can't find peace. They can't settle. We're not supposed to settle. We're not supposed to settle in Gullus. Gullus is not a place where we're supposed to feel comfortable. We say all the time, it comes from the Beis Halevi, and others say it also, Hatileni no miyad achi miyad Esav. Save me, spare me from my brother from Esav. Why does he say miyad achi miyad Esav? There's two types of Gullus. There's a Gullus of achi and there's a Gullus of Esav. Gullus of Esav means we recognize that we're persecuted. We recognize that we're in a place where we don't belong. There's the Gullus of destroying the physical, whether it was in Poland in the 1600s, whether it was in Nazi Germany in the 1940s, whether it was in the Crusades in the 11 and 1200s. But the concept is, then there's another problem of Hatzileini Miyad Achi. When Esav appears to us like a brother, when he wants us to embrace the Gayish culture, and we don't realize we're in Gullus. We're living a good life. We have big houses, and we have, a lot of people are able to afford a lot of things. And we live more comfortably than our grandparents could ever have dreamt of. The fact that we have running water, electricity, right? To name a few milos that we have that previous generations didn't. We got so accustomed to it, we forget about the tovos that we have. But the fact that we embrace the Gayish culture, and we're comfortable with it, we don't realize that we're in Gullus. Sometimes the Gullus is so bad that we don't even realize that we're in the Gullus, and we have to, a lot of times when we're in the Gullus of Achi, I don't remember who says this, but when we're in the Gullus of Achi, and we're suffering from the assimilation, and we're suffering from culture problems, that doesn't last for that long until we have the wake-up call of all of a sudden the Esav pops up again. Meaning it's not either or, but many times they go hand in hand. They go, first it's Achi, yeah, we'll embrace the culture, yeah. Everybody thought, a lot of people thought that in Germany, if they'll be frei and they're not going to be Shemer Torah mitzvahs, then the Nazis won't bother them. The Nazis knew better, because a Jew is a Jew. They taught us who a Jew is. We spoke about this many times. But it's very difficult. We mentioned the other day, the Gemara Bracha says that we want to do the Ratzon Hashem. Our Ratzon is to do the Ratzon Hashem. But what's holding us back? What's stopping us? Why can't we do the Ratzon Hashem properly? Sarsha Be'isa, that's our personal Yetzaharis and Shibud Goliath, Shibud Malchias. The fact that we live in a place that's not our own. We don't feel at home. We find it hard to settle here. Golus means that we're not here. We're not here for long. We're here for a short time, and then we're going back home. Yerushalayim is our home. The Beis HaMikdash is where we belong. We don't belong here. We don't belong in America. It's Golus. Golus America looks different because we're able to be settled. We're able to feel comfortable, and there's a tremendous bracha in that we probably never experienced in any other Golus. They say scary stories. B'Shem Gedolim. There was a Yid, there's a very big tzaddik, a tremendous Ilui, that was nifted shortly after World War II, in 1949, maybe it was a little later than that. His name was Ramatl Pagramansky. It's hard to pronounce his name for some people. And he was in the Kovna ghetto, and there were people that were there with him, said edus about him, about how little he ate and how little he slept. They wrote a book about him called The Man That Never Slept. So just a little bit of his mental capabilities. And he was talking to somebody when he was in the Kovna ghetto, and he saw most of his friends and his Talmidim killed in the war. And he survived miraculously in the Kovna ghetto, ultimately went to France and started a yeshiva there. And he told somebody, he would say things, and people would wonder what he meant. And I heard this from a few people, that he said, allegedly I'll call upon him, he said that there's going to come a time when the assimilation is going to be terrible, and not stam terrible. There's going to be a time when the Golus is going to be so bad, we're not going to recognize who a Yid is, and who knows how many Yidden are going to assimilate, and I don't know which one's worse. He was a person who lived through the Covenant Ghetto, who lived through the horrors of the Holocaust. And this is what he said. We tend not to think about it this way, but for many people, especially the G'dei Yisrael, that cared about Klal Yisrael, when we lose another Yid, when we lose a Yid to assimilation, it's a churban of Klal Yisrael. People say never again, and people say that, why did it happen? How did it happen? But the fight against assimilation is generally what the people could care less about. I mean, these people tell us, they lecture the world what it means to be a Jew. Are you Shem Shabbos? You keep kosher? You wear tefillin? So this guy wants to post a picture of him online wearing tefillin, so he has a certain celebrity status and whatever, but I don't know. I mean, is there some mitzvah there? Probably. Doesn't look so l'shem shemayim, but we're not going to say anything about that, right? But we're doing Torah and mitzvahs. But a big part of the what we don't have is the ability to do mitzvahs the way we should, because the mere fact that we're in Galus, we don't have all the mitzvahs. The Targum understands the pasuk to mean, I'll read the translation of the Targum, Karta de Amrin Allah amamaya lo tisnachem. One of the things that we mentioned this, on Tisha B'Av, I think it was, one of the things that keeps us, Klal Yisrael, going is the fact that we have hope that Mashiach is going to come. We hope that Mashiach is going to come. Hope, when we could instill hope in somebody, a person is in the hospital and it doesn't look good. The one thing we have is hope. And we take hope away from him, it's usually over very quickly. Hope literally keeps people alive. The Goyim said about Yerushalayim, and they still say about Yerushalayim, that it's never going to happen. You think you Jews are ever going to get out of Golus? It's never going to happen. That in and of itself is overwhelming for a lot of people. They're adding insult to injury. Not saying we should be paying attention to what every guy says on social media, but we definitely shouldn't, which is a challenge in and of itself. But that is a mix of Sa'ar Shabba'isa and Shibud Goliath. But the idea is that when you're trying to have Nוחama, and when you're trying to make it work, and you're trying to live life, and you're trying to keep your head above the water, and then somebody says, you know what? What's the point? You're never going to get anywhere anyways, right? Nothing is ever going to come of you. You're never going to get out of this Golus anyways. This is a city that's never going to come back to its original glory. It's mashma that they say that, but that's not the reality. We believe, B'amunah Shlema, that we're going to get back to Yerushalayim. Does it insult us? Does it hurt us? And every time a guy insults a Yid, every time a guy hurts another Yid, they're hurting the Shekhinah, and there's a retribution for that, as we spoke. And that's and that's that. A little bit weiter, there's another message that says Caniya Sa'ara lo Nוחama, and he brings a pasuk ksiv, a pasuk in Tillim that says B'nei Ish people of man, admek kvaidi lechlima, how much are you going to disrespect me and embarrass me? B'nei ish elu oivdei kechavim. B'nei ish are the goyim. Lama hu kariyasam ish. Why do we call them ish? Shehem ba mi b'nei banav shal Noach. They're the descendants of Noach. Admek kvaidi lechlima is a beis hamikdash chsiv ve'kisei kavan mar merisha and mekayim mikdashenu. You know, we didn't talk about this that much, but there's a certain insult of, if I'm a prince, a prince is much more sensitive to things. And we're Mamlechas kind of a Gai Kaddish, our stomachs can't handle the treif of meat, so to speak. I'm using that as a mashal, but we can't handle the culture. It's not meant for us, the grubkite and there's certain things that we can't handle because we're more edel, because we're Yidden. We had a Beis Hamikdash that says, the pasuk says, Kisei kavod mara merisha and mekayim mikdashenu, that the original plan in the creation of the world was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to have a dir b'tachtainim, that He's going to have a mekayim mikdashenu. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ad masay ata machlimim b'chvayde shal Beis Hamikdash. When are they going to stop disrespecting and embarrassing the Beis Hamikdash? Merakakin boy, they spit in there, metanfim boy, they get it dirty, ma'avzim boy erisayim. They make their leather over there. Chazal say all the time the leather smells really bad. Mamidim by alilim, they put up a desire in the Beis Hamikdash. Te'evun rik, they love emptiness. Miratzvin achar dvarim shal rekonos. They run after all kinds of silliness. They run after all kinds of shtuyot, all kinds of emptiness. Elikim azavu, they left HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shachachu. Ein hashchina chazaris le'me'ata. The Shechina says, I can't go back to such a place that it's so not welcoming there. Ela tevakshu chazav sela. All they want is lies. Matam svurim, what do you guys think? Al shasilakti shechina miteichel lefisha shili olam. You think that I took away my Shechina forever? You think that my Shechina is never going to come back to you? You don't think it hurts me? Like we said the mashal last week from the Levush, that the queen is going to come back to the palace. U'de'u, you should know, ki hifla Hashem chasid loy. Hashem will do wonders for His chasid. Why is it that it's Nוחama? Because we think that it's all over. We think that we're never going to get back to it. And we're so arangatived, we're so entrenched in the gullus that we don't think we'll ever be able to get out of it. And Hashem tells us, we'll open up the windows, will give us a little bit of light to be able to appreciate what it means, a geula. And on Tisha B'Av we know Mashiach was born Kara Lai Moed. We don't say Tachnun because it's a Moed. What do you mean it's a Moed? It's the saddest day of the year. But the saddest day of the year brings us to the happiest day of the year. The flip side of that is the happiest day of the year. The day that Mashiach was born. It says, weiter in the Medrash, a different Medrash, the Medrash HaGadol, B'shosha Magia Ketzal Knesset Yisrael Yinachem, when the time comes for Knesset Yisrael to get a Nechama, Mishalech HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zavos Eilam LeNechama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends a message to the Avos, Ba'Avram, Ba'Yitzchak, Ba'Yaakov, Kevin Shem Rein, She'ein Knesset Yisrael Mekablim Tanchumen. Klal Yisrael doesn't want this Nechama. Amr Lefanav, the Avos say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom, Ein Knesset Yisrael Mekabelas Mimenu Tanchumen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klal Yisrael doesn't want to accept a Nechama from us. She'nema Aniya Sa'ara Loi Nechama. They do not want to accept a Nechama. Zog the Medrash Vayt Amar Lahem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, Yafe Asasa Shlakib L'Kais Tanchumen. They did the right thing by not being Mekabel the Tanchumen. Acha Elech Vanachama. It's not enough for you to go be Menachem them, and this is what we sort of said last week also. Shenemar Anoichi Anoichi Umenachemchem. That the Nechama, the ultimate Nechama, has to come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, I'll give you a little parenting lesson. When a parent patches a kid, right, or a parent takes something away, the other parent shouldn't be the one to give it back. The parent that gave the patch should be the one to apologize. If you apologize, it's a shvuz of asmai. But it shouldn't be good cop, bad cop. You know, the tati takes away the toys, the mommy gives back the toys. It shouldn't be like that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I was the one that caused the churban. I am the one that's responsible to give it back. At that point, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Knesset Yisrael, be makabel the Kais Tanchuma from me. V'hi oina v'oimeres loy, and Klal Yisrael says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbeinu Shalom, Vaday mimcha ani misnachemes. Certainly from you I'll be Makabel Tanchumen. Eloshema tachayzer meiser aisi b'yadu u'meis. How do I know that this is going to be the last galus? Maybe we're going to go back to being put in the hands of the goyim that torture us. Oisishah, oimer la HaKadosh Baruch Hu. At that moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Nishba ani b'shmei HaGadol. I swear in my great name, She'eni meiserecha b'yadu meisa'ilam, there will be no more galus after this. This will be the final galus. Shenemar, Nishba Hashem b'yaminoi v'zrei u'uzayim eten es tegonecha et marchel oivecha. Pasuk says Hashem swears b'yaminoi with his right hand of his uzay, with the strength of his arm, which means the strength that he could fight with the goyim with. I will no longer give anything over to your enemies, meaning that you will not have to suffer from your enemies anymore. We'll make a shvuah that I will no longer get angry at you, and we'll be able to live peacefully as a Klal Yisrael without HaKadosh Baruch Hu getting angry at us. And with that, Klal Yisrael gets a Nechama Gemura. Now, again, the reason why we use a mashal of precious stones is because it's something that's chashuv. It's something that people find it to be important. You want to give someone a gift. You want to buy your wife a present. You get her a nice diamond ring. You get her some nice jewelry. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing Klal Yisrael, that we're going to get the Beis HaMikdash back. But not just the structure of the Beis HaMikdash, the outside structure of the Beis HaMikdash, but with all the pitchivkes, with all the details, with all the milas, with all the seemingly unimportant things. But that's what's going to make the person, when you show a person you care, you show them all the details that you remember, and that's a big part of what the Nechama is going to be. That's and really, it's going to be even I think that maybe we could say shtickle mida keneged mida in understanding the mashal over here. Why are we putting the stones on the floor? We said before that Klal Yisrael was Aniya umiruda, was poor, pained, and trampled on. We trample on the floor. The floor is something that we step on carelessly. But if we have a very fancy kind of a floor that's made out of precious stones, in the Beis HaMikdash we didn't walk around with shoes. The Makom HaMikdash, there's no hefsek between us on the floor, right? And you go into fancy homes, you take off your shoes. You don't want to dirty the floor, chas v'shalom, right? So we're talking about the floor over here. That even if the floor is going to have chashivas, meaning even the most important, even the least important parts of the structures of the Nechama is going to bring us back to all kinds of gewaldige madregas. Maybe we'll see a little bit weiter. V'samti kadkod shim sheisayach. U'sha'arayich lavnei ektach v'chol gevulech lavnei chefetz. Kadkod, Rashi says, is a type of even teva. Shim sheisayach are the windows where the sun shines through. And really this is like a bakasha, like we mentioned before, that we're asking, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu to open our eyes to be able to appreciate what's going on. Imagine a person is locked in a cell and he's punished in solitary confinement and he has no window. He's stuck. He's very, very stuck. A window is the Pesach, to be able to see, to be able to experience what it looks like in the outside world. Now over here we're not talking about the outside world, we're talking about the Nechama of the ultimate Geula. But that's why we want to have the windows. Chaloin and chaloim are the same word. Come from the same sherish, it's the same idea. A dream opens our mind to something that's different. Beyond our physical, it's a window into a lot of things. But it's beyond the physical. So that's what we're saying. The Shimshei Sayach are the chaloinos, where the sun shines through, where the Shechina, meaning we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu that our heart should be open, that the sun, which is the Shechina HaKadosh, should shine through with the Torah and the mitzvahs. And the she'orayich la'avnei ekdach. Ekdach is the lashon of burning. Kadcha, the kadcha ba'api l'shainas, which means to burn. So what's avnei ekdach? Rashi says they're avanim yakarais boyarais kalapidim. They're a certain kind of precious stone that when the sun shines on them, it looks like they're burning with fire. It looks like they're burning up. And a big part of Golus, we spoke about this many times, a big part of Golus is that we're so dull when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs. Our excitement in Torah and mitzvahs, it's maybe superficial at best sometimes. We don't, the good old-fashioned Jews, you would see them daven mamash for teflon fire. So we want, we're asking Kadosh Baruch Hu in the Nוחמה that we should have we should have a life to ourselves. We should have a slavus when we're doing mitzvahs. The Gemara tells a story that v'samti kadkashim sheisayach. The Gemara Bava Basra defining a very interesting Gemara. V'samti kadkashim sheisayach. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani pligi trei malachi berakia Gabriel and Michael z'machleikas. Two malachim in Shemayim, Michael and Gabriel. V'amri lo trei amiroi b'marava, or two amiroi in Eretz Yisrael. L'man inin Yehuda v'chizki b'nei Reb Chia. Yehuda and Chizki, the children of Reb Chia, chad amar Shaya v'chad amar Yashvei. Amar hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'hevei kedeinu kedein. Kedivrei zeh kedivrei zeh. Kad koid means for either one of you it could go for, right?
Sorry. You know you're now alone. You're
The Gemara goes weiter. Ki had Yasser Rabbi Yechanan v'Kadarish. Rabbi Yechanan was sitting and darshaning. Asir HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'havi avanim tevas u'margali Hashem shleishim al shleishim v'chaykik ben eser al esrim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring these massive precious stones and pearls and diamonds that are 30 by 30 amas. And he's going to carve out a 10 by 20 within this 30 by 30 stone. And he's going to place them on Shari Yerushalayim, or Mamidon b'Shari Yerushalayim. Liglig alav oisa Talmud. The Talmud that he said this to started laughing and made fun of him. Hashta kebeasa the titzla le'mishkachinan kulei ha'mishkachinan. Meaning we don't even have a diamond the size of an egg. You're telling me it's going to be 30 by 30? He started making fun of what his Rebbe said. Meaning he was in disbelief. And that is, meaning a Talmud, what's going on over here? Here we have a Talmud sitting next to his Rebbe. His Rebbe is saying something that he can't wrap his head around, and he laughs. He laughs at him. He makes fun of him, which is a big, what's scary about Amalek is the koach of Litzanis, which means the koach of Litzanis is that there's no makom for anything serious or anything real, right? Someone said over on Tisha B'Av that the line Mr. Sisharim brings that I think it's Mr. Sisharim, but the line that the Velt says upon him, Litzanos achas is deichem mea teichachas. Teichachas doesn't necessarily mean musar. Heichacha means a proof. So even if I bring you 100 proofs, if you're a letz and you're making Litzanos and you don't believe it, you're not going to believe it even if I bring you 100 proofs. He said this b'shem Rebbe, I think Ramatzios Solomon says b'shem his Rebbe Rebbe Lapian. The Gullus leads us into thinking along these lines.
Does Solomon learned in England?
He's British.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Meaning the Mashkiach of BMG?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was a British. That's why he spoke. That's why he was able to captivate the audience.
Why? Because of his accent?
His accent. I don't know if that's true, but he was definitely a great speaker anyways. Anyways, the point is that Amalek is the pshat. Amalek is the pshat that there's nothing serious. And nothing, it's all, really everything is nonsense. There's nothing serious. Achrisei adei oived. Mamela, he's going to be destroyed forever. Because the koach of Litzanis is that it doesn't give anything kiyum. So the Talmud laughs at him. The Talmud's not laughing for a bad reason. The Talmud's laughing because he doesn't think that he would ever be able to believe such a thing, be able to wrap his head around such a thing. The reason why a Talmud wouldn't be able to wrap his head around such a thing is because we're in Galus. In Galus, we don't believe B'Amunah Shalema, many different things. If I tell you that the Mashiach is going to come, you're not that serious about it. I know somewhere in the back of your head, you know something, you remember something about it, but Liglig Lava said Talmud. The Talmud was laughing at him. And how could a Talmud laugh at a Rebbe? Right? And the reason why we said about Amalek is because Amalek always tries to interfere between a Rebbe and a Talmud. And that is the Kayach of Latzanis, to not take your Rebbe seriously. But that is the Kayach of the Galus.
When did they try to interfere between the Rebbe and his Talmud?
Because by Amalek it says that Moshe Rabbeinu told Yeshua, say Hilachem b'Amalek. B'char lonu anashav, he told Yeshua. Yeshua, b'char lonu anashav, say Hilachem b'Amalek. And if you look at Rashi over the Rashi says that Mikan, shekvoidai, kvoi talmidcha.
What does that line that he said to Yeshua mean?
You should be the one to choose people to fight the war against Amalek. Meaning the understanding of it is that because Amalek looks down condescendingly on everything, they think they have it all. They think they know everything. That's the lashon of Chazal. So the idea is that when it comes to a Rebbe-Talmud relationship, it's a very serious thing, and Amalek is the one that tries to destroy that, and that's why the Talmud's laughing. It's not necessarily a bad. The Talmud didn't mean it in a bad way. The Talmud didn't mean it in a bad way. He couldn't take his Rebbe seriously. So what happened? So a couple of days later, this Talmud is traveling at the sea. He saw Malach HaSharetz, the Yashvi v'kamen Nasri, Avonim Tavis and Margolios, Shehem Lamed al Lamed, V'chok Kven, Etza Barum Esrim. Right? The Talmud saw the Malachim that were carving these stones, mamish like Rabbi Yochanan described them. So Amar Lahu, he said to them, Hani Laman, he asked the Malachim, who are these stones for? Amar Leisha Asra Kadosh Baruch Hu Lahamidam B'Shari Yerushalayim. These are the stones that Hashem is going to place at the gateway to Yerushalayim. Asra L'Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, so he came to Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Le, Dreish Rebbe L'Chana L'Dreish. Rebbe, you darshan to you, gave a good drasha, you knew what you were talking about. Why? Kasher Marta Ken Reisi. Because I saw what you told us. Amar Le Reka. So the Rebbe tells him, empty one. Il-Mole Le Reisa Lo Yamanta. He said, you only believe it if you see it. Melagleg al Divrei Chachamim Mata. You're mezalzel, you make fun of Divrei Chachamim. Nasan Eina Bei V'Nasa Gal Shal Tzamas. He stared at him and stared at him and stared at him until he died. Became a pile of stones. Adkan the Gemara. Meaning, what happened over here was that I think this sums up a lot of, this Gemara sort of sums up a lot of what we were trying to talk about. The idea is like this. We don't know what it means to have a Beis HaMikdash. The Rebbe is trying to portray to us, our Rebbeim, Talmidei Chachamim, Chazal, are trying to portray to us what it means to have a Beis HaMikdash, to live in Golus, to live a life with a Beis HaMikdash, to live a life without a Beis HaMikdash. And we are this Talmud that's malaglig on the Divrei Chachamim. I think we all know, the times where we say, I don't have to really keep this mitzvah, or like, Shabbos is not so important for me this week, or I don't know, daven tomorrow, not today. And these kind of things, we are guilty of this, what this Talmud's doing. But Rabbi Yochanan called him out because he didn't want to believe. It's very hard to believe. We'd rather see. Famous line from the Kutzke, someone said that, there was a Talmud of the Kutzke, said, my Rebbe is so great that he sees the Ushpisen on Sukkot. So he said, it's even greater if you believe that they're there. The point of Amunah, the point in believing in something is, dafka because you can't see it. Seeing something is very finite. The Koyach Hariyah is very finite. It can only see up to a certain amount. It can only take in a certain amount. And my impression of it makes a big difference. But our eyes are constantly playing tricks on us because Amunah is way beyond what we could see. HaKadosh Baruch Hu opened the eyes of this Talmud to see the Malachim. Vaistai says, Given Yoah Bal Madrega. He's a big Bal Madrega, but Rabbi Yochanan the Rebbe expected a lot more from him. He says, Malagleg b'divrei chachamim mata. And there's a very famous medrash that comes up a lot in a few places. The pasuk says, "Ki lo davar reiku mikem." Pasuk says, the end of Sefer Dvarim, "Ki lo davar reiku mikem." There is nothing empty about it. We said before that the goyim tell Klal Yisrael that your hopes are empty, you have empty dreams, and we said that in a certain sense, the Golus empties us out and makes us feel empty and makes us feel like we can't fill ourselves up. You know, fascinating thing. The Gemara says that a blind person is never full. He can't see the food that he eats. He doesn't know what he's eating, so he never gets full. He's never satiated. We, in a certain sense, are never going to be satiated in Golus because we don't see it. But on the other hand, if we have Amunah, our Amunah should be able to satisfy us. We should be satisfied. I mean, we're like blind people when it comes to the Nyan about the Beis HaMikdash. We never saw a Beis HaMikdash. We don't know what it's like, right? But at the same time, if we have Amunah, we're able to create this picture in our mind, and we're able to satisfy ourselves, not with the Beis HaMikdash itself, but with the Amunah about the Beis HaMikdash. And that's how we're able to be menachem ourselves in the Golus.
Hashem says that we should want it, and it must be something.
And that's how we'll be able to, and that's how we'll be able to have that's really the point that we said before. That we said Aniya menat tzadikim, Aniya menat Torah, Aniya mimitzvos u'masim tovim, and we're Sa'ara, we have Sharura u'mei and we're so lost, so to speak. And Ritzaynenu lasvus Ritzayncha. It's like we have the kelim, but what are we filling it up with? Ritzaynenu lasvus Ritzayncha. Mima akav, we have a lot of ikuvim. Sar Shabi Isa v'Shiva Goliath. This Talmud was malaglik because he was suffering from Sar Shabi Isa. Ki lo yidavar reiku mikem. Im reiku, if you view the Torah as something empty, mikem. It's your problem. Why is it your problem? It's coming from you. The emptiness is coming from you. The Tichzaron and Amunah comes from you. Rabbi Yochanan didn't like that. Rabbi Yochanan didn't like that, and he says, I had to bring you to this state where you will be able to see it. If you wouldn't have seen it, you wouldn't have believed it, you would have just made fun. If you have Amunah goes a long way, a lot more than you think it does. Right? Omaloi Reikos, he tells them, empty one. We said a lashon before, just trying to find it. We said a lashon before also of something about Reiko also.
He's allowed to sit there. I want to be alone. If you want to be alone, then go to a picnic table over there.
Shh, we're learning. Don't. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says like this: Ad masay atem machlimim b'chvayde shel Beis HaMikdash. Till when are we going to have to sit and watch as the Beis HaMikdash gets embarrassed and trampled on? Merakakin boy, metanfim boy. Ma'abdim boy reiseyim, ma'amidim boy alilim, tevun rik, meradfin achet dvarim shal rekonus. Part of the gullus is that we don't allow ourselves to be satiated with real things, with real ruchnias. We could fill ourselves up with ruchnias in a very real way. We don't have to rely on, we don't live such ruchniistic lives as much as we wish we would. We get very, very stuck in gashmias, and it's not our fault. But part of nechama is that we also have to take responsibility for what we did or didn't do. And we said before that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells the Avos Kov Yimenachem Klal Yisrael, and they come back and they tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Klal Yisrael doesn't want to have a nechama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be the one to fill up our kais. As we said, that was why David HaMelech is the one that benches us as Lavai, because he said kais Yishu is Esa B'Shem Hashem Ekra. But that's the Yafa Asas Hashalei Kibla kais Tanchumen, right? The kais is currently empty, and our job is to fill it up. And I think that's what we'll say for today on the Haftarah of Parshas Re'eh. I know it was a lot of things, but I hope it was good.
Okay.